Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session
with your host, Michael Reardon.
We are in full swing right now for the election, for Americans to go out and to cast their ballots and to hope that the nominee that they would like to sit in the office position that they are vying for is going to get it. But the reality is that around 50%, maybe 51, 49%, depending on the side, people are not going to be happy with the election choice. Now, of course, there have been elections where there have been, I believe, up to 70% or around there. But the reality is there's going to be a good amount of people who are not going to be happy with the choice that's coming. And I'm talking about this not only because we need to understand the mindset behind this aspect, right? The outcome is the mindset. But we also need to understand that if we have bad news, typically what tends to happen is we say, this is something that we can't focus on. We can't worry about what's coming next because our life is already over. It's almost like the year is done. And in a sense, if you are going to be operating in this mindset, you're going to have the outcome of not being able to finish off the years or, the next 2 or 4 years, whatever it be, in the way that you would like it to be. Because if you don't win, you're going to say, man, my life is over for the next 4 years. And guess what happens? Your actions are going to derive what your mind is telling you. The outcome is the mindset. And so I have this blog I wrote about the outcome is the mindset. Now, of course, during the elections, we have a lot of mayhem, a lot of infighting. There's a lot of things going on. And not everyone is going to be happy. Like I said, there's going to be almost like a conflict between your brothers and your sisters, your neighbors, your coworkers, perhaps. I know some families that actually fall apart during the election because they have different viewpoints. But the reality is, you're allowed to have a different opinion. You're allowed to have a different viewpoint. But the moment someone else has one, is almost like, ugh, like you're turned off. It's like, well, how could you even get in this type of mentality? Because I don't even know who you are anymore. The reality is they're allowed just as much as you're allowed to have a choice, to have a vote, to have a voice. Oftentimes when it comes to election, we like to muffle people's voices. We're not going to listen to you. We're going to be an echo chamber. We're going to vote for this one. If you don't, you're a bigot or you're a misogynist or you're voting for a felon or you're voting for a toxic person or you're not voting for this person because you're a feminist. Or, we can go down the line of things that people would say, right? But the reality is, you don't have to be any of those things. You can just have an opinion and believe that the candidate that or the candidates that you're going to be voting for are people that you would like to see in office. It's almost like we can use something very trivial. House color paint, right? Not talking about the outside, I'm talking about the inside. Let's say, you have a choice, right? White is popular right now. White is, will probably always be popular. Clean white paint is just modern, it's just chic. Just do it, right? But let's say someone paints the inside of their house yellow or blue or red. These are, bright colors, abrasive maybe sometimes. And you're like, whoa, when you walk in their house, you're like, listen, I understand you like blue, but don't you think you went a bit overboard with all this blue paint in your house? Well, number one, you don't live there. And number two, why are you so worried about the paint color? I understand it's trivial, but now let's pretend this is the election, right? They have a choice to vote for blue. They have a choice to vote for red if you think about the parties, Democrat, Republican, right? And yellow, we're just going to pretend it's independent, right? You have a choice. Just because you have a different paint color in your house and other people don't like the paint color, well, and it's the same thing with politics. Well, just because your candidate doesn't win or if there was fraudulent activities during an election, it doesn't matter. What matters is what are you going to do about it? I'm not talking about pick up your pitchforks and your torches and you're going to go riot because you're unhappy. We're beyond that. We are civilized beings, but yet many people act uncivilized because they allow their emotions to take control when they should be in control of their mind and their actions. Yet we are going down a path where people are so volatile if they don't get their way. It's almost like this entitlement aspect, like Karen and Ken, where they're just like, oh, I'm going to do this and you're going to listen to me. And it's almost like people are so delusional where it's like it's my way or the highway. And I understand there can be aspects to that in your life, but this is not one of them. For example, let's say you have a business, right? Let's look at the pandemic. People had the choice to turn away business if they A, didn't have a mask on, or B, weren't vaccinated, right? That's a business choice, right? Just because they didn't want that type of customer in there, hey, that's their choice. Of course, they revoked it, or most people have revoked that because they're losing business. If you're a business person, you probably want to make a profit, typically, unless you're nonprofit and maybe you just do whatever you want. The reality is people might be living in one thing today and then change it up tomorrow. We are always going to be in this fight for who's right and who's wrong. Because typically we can always look at my side versus their side. We can look at war. We can look at politics is what we're talking about loosely. We can look at different styles of clothing, of relationships, whatever it be, right? You have your polyamorous type of relationships, you got your monogamous type relationships, right? So there's different types. You might say, I will never be in a polyamorous relationship. Like, how can someone have multiple sexual partners? So you go ahead and you shame the people who do. Are you any better than them just because you have, maybe one love, you're monogamous, and you're like, I have one person and I'm going to be happy because I have this one person? Hey, everyone has a choice. They get to live their life the way they want. We can look at the LGBTQ community and what they do. We can say, oh, like, you're not supposed to do this, you're evil. Hey, at the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to do. So at some point, you have to ask yourself, am I willing or do I have to go ahead and give myself all of this drama, all of this frustration for what? What battle are you truly winning? Now, I understand you might be religious, and I know sometimes, religious people can become a bit passionate about what they do and they want to spread the word of the Lord and Jesus. And sometimes they would see someone doing sinning things or sinners that they would consider sinners. And they would say, you're sinning and you need to change this and you need to be a better person. And it's like, I condemn you. But the reality is, do they want to be saved? I don't know. It's like if I started going up to people on the street and saying, you need mindset work, your life's a mess, you need to be in my office tomorrow, here's an appointment. Like, no, it's a welcoming experience, right? Like, if you want to come, come. If you don't, hey, that's fine. If you want to listen to the podcast, great. If you don't, that's fine. Everyone has a different opinion. Everyone has a different take. And I do my best, or I try to do my best, to remain as neutral as possible. I mean, I have worked with everyone. If you name the type of person, I have worked with them all around the world. And what I can say is I find a nice neutral spot to be able to coach anyone. The most challenging part, I would say, is that it's like a switch that you have to be able to flip. And the way I flip it is I just have to understand who you are first. So typically in the consultation, I'm learning who you are. Do you have a family? What type of beliefs do you have? Values? All of these little things, right? And then I'm able to build up your character, and then from there we have a good foundation for how we will proceed. Of course, I'm going to learn a little bit more about you as the months go on, but we are able to do pretty good in the first month starting off because I'm able to do that initially. But if I had a bias toward a certain type of people, right? Just say I didn't like a certain culture or something, right? It's weird, but I don't like a certain culture. So if someone from that culture came into my office, I'm going to say, oh, Jesus, this person again, this culture again, man, like this is no good. But it doesn't just have to be culture. It could be a walk of life. It could be political or religious belief, whatever it be. If I was that one tracked mind saying, well, you're different than me, I must ostracize you. I must dislike you. I must hate you. Where are we going as people? The reality is, we're not going anywhere. And I wrote this article not because I was like, you know what, we need an article, everyone. Like, we need to talk about a blog. And I don't have a blog like this. So I said, we need a blog like this because I need people to go to the website. And when they need knowledge, when they need information, when they need some insight, they can go into the search window, type exactly what they're looking for. They don't even need to go to Google. They'll get anything they need. So if you have relationship problems, boom, there it is. You got career problems, boom, you got, there it is. If you're having family problems, boom, there it is. It shows in the search window, it searches the whole website for all the blogs, all the videos, all the podcast episodes, and it's right there in front of you. Call that convenient, right? So this convenience is actually a benefit to anyone. So they can come here and they can say, okay, well, I'm trying to figure out my mindset. If you type in politics, this article is going to come up. So we're trying to figure out where we are, not as only a nation, but as a people. Where are we going? Are we going to always be in this mentality of every 2 to 4 years, we're going to have a uproar what we're doing, and if we like a person or if we don't like a person, or if we're happy where the country is going or we're not happy where the world is going, it doesn't necessarily concern our daily actions. Now, I understand there can be a benefit to have a certain leader or certain types of politicians in government. They can benefit you, right? Think of tax breaks, for example. But then you also have to also think about what happens in your cities, what happens in your state. All right. If you go off to war or something like that, and maybe you have a loved one in the military, so that can affect you because now you're trying to figure out, well, I need to be doing this, but I'm worried about what's happening to my best friend or my wife or my husband because you are distracted now. There's something that is keeping you away from you, from paying attention to what you have to do. The outcome is the mindset. Win or lose, what will you do? If you win, are you going to celebrate? Yeah, I won. Cool. If you lose, are you going to say, boo hoo, my life is over. These next 4 years are going to suck. Well, guess what? Your next 4 years will suck because you told yourself that. Why not tell yourself that these next 4 years are going to be good? Even if they're filled with hardship, you gave yourself a mindset of the outcome that you're looking for. Many people don't realize the outcome that they should be vying for is the mindset that they should be continually instilling in themselves every single day. And if you do not be consistent in this thinking, imagine how many opportunities you're going to lose in the moments in every day because you're so worried about what if or what was, when the reality is you need to be looking at now. Because the reality is that's all we have. We have right now. The next moment is not guaranteed. But many people, they live like they have all these moments. And they're going to throw away 4 years maybe. Oh, man. My candidate didn't win. Guess what? My next 4 years, I'm just going to kind of do whatever. I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to worry about finding a relationship. I'm just going to be miserable. I'm just going to kind of go in my cave and tuck away. Or you might develop a negative mindset and you go on X or Facebook and you're typing all of these negative things about candidates and maybe you're making memes about them. And you're spending all this time being hateful and deceitful. But the reality is, if you're going to immerse yourself in that type of personality, you will become that type of personality. Your character is going to evolve. Sometimes it evolves for the good of you, and sometimes it calls to the detriment of you. If you are doing things that are hurting you long term, you need to be able to pay attention to that. I understand many people are not able to do it. People today, when it comes to critical thinking, it is almost like it's a skill we need to learn again. I know some people say like common sense has been lost. I say critical thinking has been lost first. Because if you were able to critically think, common sense is kind of like second nature to that. You will be looking at more of the things that you're doing and the outcomes that come from it. If you look in the mirror and you're overweight, you're not going to be delusional. You're not going to say like, "Oh, I'm wonderful. I look amazing." I understand there's so many, outlets out there that will say that you're fine just the way you are. But the reality is you get to look in the mirror and be truthful to yourself. Only you know if you are excited where you are. You might have tried something too. You might have tried to lose the weight, maybe tried to do something, and you weren't successful. So maybe you're that type of person that says, you know what? I have tried, I didn't succeed. So I'm just going to accept who I am. Is that you? I don't know. But if it is, reinvestigate that outcome that you got. You got an unfavorable outcome and it stopped you from getting the outcome that you would like. So you just made like a new save point, or a new homeostasis, basically what you can call it. From there, you're like, great, this is, good now, right? Because I said this is what I want. But the reality is it what you truly wanted? Maybe. I don't know. But you do. Oftentimes, when people are asked, like, what is your purpose, your passion in life? Like, what do you like? And things that you would like to do. And most people, if you ask them initially, they might say, that's a good question, or I don't know. We don't pay attention to ourselves enough. So when it's time to pay attention to ourselves, it's almost like you panic. It's like, oh man, I don't know what to do. So it's easy for us to kind of throw to the wayside. And like this happened, right? Excuse. I'm not in the mood. Excuse. I don't know what to do. Excuse. We have to take ownership for whatever goes on, good and bad, for us or for not us. Like I said, 50%, around 50% of people are not going to be happy with the results of what's going to happen during the election, during the next 4 years. People are going to give themselves this negative mindset. There's going to be a lot of quarreling and bickering. If you are one of these people, could your time be spent elsewhere? Could you have done something that would be more positive to your future and your development? Most certainly, yes. Most certainly, you could have made some changes. You could have made some adjustments. But the reality is, maybe you pretend, that people have a good, strong mindset, right? Maybe only 40 to 60% will do something about it. That means 40%, like they're just checked out already. They're just like, yeah, no. That hurts everyone. That hurts the country. That hurts a culture. That hurts your family. Hurts the nation. Hurts the world. because you decided that you're going to check out. Imagine if you are, at a company, if you have a business or whatever, 40% of the people says, you know what? I'm just not going to work. I'm just not going to do any work. That would put more burden on you. I'm not saying that you need to carry the world. Everything has a ripple effect. What we have and what we emanate in the world is dependent on what we are thinking, what we're doing. The outcome is the mindset. Win or lose, what is your mindset? And I encourage everyone to check out this article here. The outcome is the mindset. We talk about the nuances of society and the election and how we think about things. And we understand that, after the election, people are not going to be too happy. They might be very happy. They might be egotistical. They might be humble. I don't know. We will see what's going to happen. We do need to understand that we are not just doing this because if we are trying to make some changes in our life, we can be starting from a good point, a good place to a better future. But in order for us to do that, we have to understand that the people that are different than us, they're not our enemy. I know we can look at someone and we say, if you are voting for this person, unfollow me. Or if you do this, don't be my friend anymore. But the reality is, your political nature shouldn't, be a deciding factor in if someone is a good person or someone's your friend. For example, like I've worked with people on all political spectrums. And I'm talking about extreme to extreme, both sides, people in the middle too, right? Just everywhere. I need to be able to understand where they're coming from and be able to coach them and do it so without a bias toward them. Of course, I can have my own opinions. I'm human, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean during the coaching session, I'm going to instill my opinions into the other person because wherever they want to go, that's where we walk. And I'm just there to say, okay, well, we have, if we're going to walk this way, we have a river, we got a forest, we got some lions over here. We need to watch out for that, right? Versus, I'm like, do you really want to go over there with the lions? Do you really want to go over there with the river? Do you really want to go over there with the forest? They get to make the choice. Of course, I'm there to show them their blind spots, as any coach should, but I'm not there to say that you need to be doing this. And since you're doing this, you are wrong and you're incorrect. If you keep going down this path, you're going to be unhappy. Certain things you can do that with. But when it comes to opinion, like opinion stuff, like politics, it's irrelevant. Now, if you're like drinking and smoking and stuff like that, yeah, now we're getting into health. Eating cheeseburgers all day, health. Politics, I understand it can affect your health, but it is more of opinion. Now, if you're perfectly content eating hamburgers and hot dogs every evening when you get off work and you come to me for relationship advice, I'm going to say, are you having trouble getting a relationship or are you having troubles in your relationship, right? There's a difference. If they say they're having troubles getting a relationship, I would say, is your physical fitness stopping you from getting a relationship? Do you think that people are turned off by you because of how you look? Yes or no? Then we start to look at the avenue of, would you like to change the way you look, your body? So not only will you feel better, but you will look better. And if you look better to yourself, you will look better to others. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go out and find a person that will accept you who you are. People will. But at the end of the day, if you cannot love yourself, how can you love someone else? So we do that systematically. How can you not love your neighbor just because they have a different political view? It's silly. right? And I understand you don't have to take them to movies and you don't have to invite them over for Thanksgiving and things like that, but you do have a obligation to be human, to treat people civilly. We are not going to go into civil war or into caveman type mentality just because someone has a different opinion. I understand in our world today, in the delusion and the entitlement, all of that's going to fade away. It's going to take some time. It's almost like, think of like if you were trying to dilute something. Let's say some Coca-Cola. You get a glass of Coca-Cola. It could be anything. It could be orange juice, apple juice, whatever, right? And you just put the cup under water. Eventually the water is going to dilute the Coca-Cola, whatever drink it is, and eventually it's going to be clear, just like only water. Now, if you taste it, it might taste like Coca-Cola a little bit or like orange juice a little bit, whatever, but it's going to be a lot clearer. Before, it was difficult to see through, but now you can see through the glass. And if you can do that more consistently and readily, that is going to be how you operate when someone has a different view or different opinion. Eventually, as they are going, they're going to learn. You just keep instilling positivity. The water is the positivity. Eventually, they're going to look at all the good things in you. You're going to see all the good things in them. And the bad things, you don't have to point them out. You don't have to tell someone they're doing bad all the time. Appreciate the people for who they are. The good, the bad, the ugly. Okay? Like I said, you don't have to take them out on dates. You don't have to go to the movies with them. You don't have to be best friends and pen pals with them. But you should be able to treat everyone with respect. I mean, that should just be a standard, right? I know the golden rule is, treat others as you would like to be treated. There is a stigma today where people are like, well, they treat me bad, so why should I treat them good? Well, if you keep throwing rocks at everyone, everyone's going to keep throwing rocks at each other. If you create the example, we set the standard, we create the tone. The outcome is the mindset. And the mindset that you should be going for is what type of life is going to not only benefit you, but everyone else. And it doesn't matter about who wins and who loses. And if we can help people win, the world wins. This is the outcome that we should be vying for. We will be divided for a moment, but it doesn't mean that moment has to last for a lifetime. And if you need some help with structuring yourself, structuring your life, figuring out what type of circle you would like to create, getting over the differences that might be a hurdle for you and your family, reach out to us here at Reverend Concepts, get a consultation, begin the coaching process, and then from there, you will be in a better place to help not only yourself, but everyone else around you prosper. Stay tuned for another episode of Coaching in Session. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode. Everyone, until then, take care.